Jamie is one of a member of Dharma Voce, and he's a prolific songwriter, musician, drummer, guitarist, vocalist, um, and who knows what else.
Carpenter.
Carpenter.
Is it really good day for?
Everythingist.
And Bodhisattva in the causal stage. And he wrote a song last night, and he played it for us in rehearsal. But we just love it just like it is, with him just sharing it with us singularly. And I asked him, could he come up? He's going to have to leave right after because he sings for the people in the old folks' home at 1 o'clock. But thank you. We got a country kind of vibe going in our new album that's coming. We got all kinds of music genres. You know, it's very beautiful. I never thought I'd like country, but I do.
Wouldn't know that I was alive if it weren't for crying. Couldn't know that I could feel but for the pain. All my people that I love just keep on dying. Looks like I'll be working in the rain. Is it the rain or my tears that are falling down? Or my eyes or the cold window pane? With these burdens on my shoulders, I'll keep trying. Looks like I'll be working in the rain. Holy Spirit, let me know that you're listening. Let me see what I believe before I die. Let the words from my mouth be worth you hearing. Meditations of my heart and yours the same. Why now do I rise above the trees into the skies? I feel no pain above the rain. Yes, I can see my mother and my father there before me, saying, son, come on in from the rain.
Thank you so much. And so I had a different Dharma talk for today, but when he sang this song, and this was in the last 2 minutes of our rehearsal, he said, I wrote another song last night. Do y'all want to hear it? And we said yes. We're looking like his time is too short now. But then, and then he brought that song for us. I said, okay, sing that today. I'll change my Dharma. So I won't say I'll change my Dharma talk because I wasn't sure exactly where I was going today. But, there's this thing about staying in that space where you're open and available to know what can come forth at a particular intersection of what we call time that can be useful and beneficial to people. So there've been many times that I used to prepare Dharma talks, and then I'd get here and that's not it, so then I couldn't give it. So I just stopped preparing. It's more important to prepare oneself. And part of preparing oneself is constantly, continually, thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
To continually be open and available. I remember when we would write songs, or first we started singing other people's songs, and we would change the words of the songs. Or I would love some Christian song and where it had Holy Spirit, for the Buddhist audience, I'd change it to Bodhisattva. Or where I had, because at that time I felt that it was necessary to bring it into our jargon, but there comes a place in our development that we come to know the essence of things that words only hint at. And if we get locked or too tightly clamped down on our jargon, we will miss the reality of something, and we won't be able to make use even of what we know. So busy trying to adhere to the languaging of things, we miss the opportunity to point directly at something. And so as I was listening to the song touched the human part of me. Of course, there is a human part of me. And at any given time, I am aware. I was going to say mindful, but mindful is not exactly it. There's a difference between mindfulness and awareness. And you have to really slice it thin to see what that difference is between mindfulness and awareness. Mindfulness, we're keeping something in mind, but in awareness, it is recognizing what exactly is showing up. Keeping something in mind is not the same thing as being aware of what is showing up out of mind, out of your mind. It is making its appearance, and it's at that intersection that we find life, or that we find reality. It's not just what's coming up in my mind, but it's having being on a collision course with what's not in my mind, and being aware of how my mind receives or interacts with that which is showing up. And so there's something about, if we're not careful in our mindfulness training, that we actually further clamp down our narrowness or hinderedness of mind, that we, because of the lack of awareness and the meeting at the intersection of what is presently arising. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that mindfulness can get very selfishly attached to what the thinking of my mind is. And we'll think that we're getting more mindful, but without having a certain kind of awareness that is cultivated through a combination of compassion and wisdom, we end up just with a stronger, more clamped down view of just what our own mind is saying to us. And when that happens, it can become very difficult to extricate ourselves from that, because we have this notion that our mind has reached a level of maturity or a level of supremacy that we can rely on that mind. But without awareness, you cannot rely on your mindfulness. That's what I'm saying. And so awareness comes with, is fraught with, I won't say danger, but with requiring a certain kind of consideration that goes beyond what would necessarily just be agreeable to me or seem right to me or seem useful to me or seem beneficial to me. And not having a capacity to actually consider what one is meeting equal with one's own mind, then we can't get the benefit of the engagement or of the encounter. It just really ends up being all about me, all about my mind and what I think. Now the stage after that becomes confusion. Then one gets confused, you know, because they've already diverted or gone down a wrong path. So as he was singing his song, and the song touched me. Where did it touch me? It didn't like really touch me at my wisdom point. It touched me at my compassion point. You have to know, where it touched you, and I could see that a breakthrough coming, a recognition of surrender and a breakthrough coming for him. And to let that really have its full work. And I looked at another person in rehearsal, and like after the first two lines, the tears were falling for him because it was at the point, of his present work. And we're all at some point of our work. It's just what point are we at? And we have to know that's the awareness part, not so much the mindfulness part. This is a little janky. Stay with me. It'll get clearer by the time we get to the end. I never worry about a rough start because when I read Buddha Master's discourses, like I don't know what he's talking about when he first starts talking. He's here, then he's over here, then he's down there, but by the time he's taking you through the whole territory until now you've got the big picture. But it's not because he needed to go through all of that. It's because the hearer needed to go through all of that to get on the same page, with him. And that's how wisdom teaches. Because it has to make us stop over there and pick up John, and come through here and pick up Joe, and go through there and pick up Mary. And, and now we're all on the bus. We're all getting on the same wavelength. And before we know it, we're all moving at the same time from a same place, and yet not from a same place, from a same place and from an individual place. But we come through all of these territories so that when John speaks using the non-excellency of words, I know what John means. I also understand where John is coming from. And there's a part of me that connects with John unless I have abandoned that. If I have abandoned that, then I can't relate to John. But if I held that and added this, then when John says that, I know John's heart and I know my own heart. So we like to pick up and discard. For every new thing we get, we want to discard something old. But it's not a discarding. It is just allowing it its place and its space. And enabling something new that can come, that can be informed by that understanding that I had, or that I held, or maybe that I hold. And so there's this note thing of, like, when we think of the Dharma wheel turning, I don't think of the trail that it makes in the sand. That's a linear line that it makes in the sand. But I think about the wheel itself, that is continually circling back around, and the wheel never leaves the linear, it never becomes linear. It's constantly circular, taking me back again through something, going deeper, seeing something I haven't seen before. That's why we should never expect a practitioner to be in the same place where we last saw them. To do it is to be stupid. To do it is to know nothing about how spiritual practice evolves and grows and increases. To think that way shows how much Dharma you don't understand. So it takes something, though, to not keep making the same mistakes over and over. And this is where awareness comes from. So when we're doing certain techniques or certain practices that we call meditation practices, it's not for the sake of doing those practices, but for the sake of generating and developing or cultivating mindfulness until it becomes awareness. And this awareness allows us to make use of things. So he got to a part, so it touched my human feelings that I could not deny, that the condition that we are in, and we just think we're in a really bad condition, because it's in our face where we live. It's in our face, in our country, and even though we have compassion for things that people are suffering in other countries and other societies, it's not quite the same as when it hits your doorstep. So in our practicing of the supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation, that training builds upon our sense of compassion until, whether far or near, whether known or mere acquaintance, or just passing by somebody on the street, one has an equal level of sincerity and recognition of their suffering. And when one sees that rightly, something else begins to happen that actually releases you from that suffering kind of burden, and you start to operate from a different state of awareness of what's going on around you. Now, that's basically the difference between an ordinary human advancing towards the level of a bodhisattva in the causal stage. So that means that person is like 99.9% human and ordinary, and 0.1, is it 1? Oh, 1.1% bodhisattva. And so when we don't have an understanding, we just use words and then we try to evaluate everything from the perspective of the words. So today I want to share with you a little bit about what it means when we talk about becoming a Buddha in this very life. Because we can have a very wrong or immature understanding of what that is, just because we don't quite know enough yet. But that informs our view about what we see and what we encounter in life. And it can take us so far afield that we can not get back to safe ground. So I think it's important to talk about that today. He sang one line in the song that said, "Why now do I rise above the trees into the skies, where I feel no pain above the rain?" And he's new to the Dharma, but there's a shift occurring that he doesn't even know about. But hearing something, like he said, this is a song I wrote. It's a song about grief. And he starts with the grief. And then something moves upon that mind. And he says, these words just came. Why now do I rise above the trees into the skies? I feel no pain above the rain. I'll explain it to you later. I told, but just sing the song for now, because it's a pickup song. It's a song that first acquaints us with our humanity. It's a song that acquaints us with our compassion. And as that compassion starts to be informed by wisdom, it transforms. So let's say, do you think that there's a difference between one who is a sociopath and one who is wise? One who is wise has figured out how to rise above the kind of suffering, the kind of grief that we hold as ordinary human beings, so that pain is not present for them in the way that it was present for them. And yet they're not psychopaths or sociopaths. So there's got to be a difference in the no pain thing, in the feeling of no pain. A baby doesn't talk about anybody. But is the baby's understanding the same as the understanding of a wise person? No, it's not. So it's not just a matter of an outward seeing of this and a seeing of that, or the absence of this or the absence of that. It's way more complicated than that. So I'm reading from a teaching. It's a discourse, a long one, but it's a discourse of Buddha masters, and I want to make sure we understand the words that we use. Therefore, at this point, I will sincerely inform you, disciples, of something. There's no possibility of you becoming, in this very lifetime, the type of Buddha that Shakyamuni is. So that tells us there's more than one type of. So that's impossible. There's no such possibility. Why do I say there's no such possibility? This is because even Maitreya Bodhisattva, the next Buddha, is waiting. Even he has still not realized Buddhahood. Even he has to wait to become a Buddha for the Dragonflower Assembly. How then can we speak of becoming a Buddha in this very lifetime? So this issue tells us that if we want to become a Buddha in this very lifetime, we first and foremost must have such confidence that we can become one. If we think we will become one like Shakyamuni Buddha, it would be hard to arouse that confidence. And it would be unfair to impute that level of attainment or demand it from someone else. To demand it is to not understand the process. This is our own internal cause. With respect to external causes, we will naturally make every effort to receive all possible support from within the Dharma realm. So I used to call on the Holy Spirit as a being, but also as a realm. Not just a being, but not a being, certainly not a human being, ergo spirit, which I may not even have a clear definition in my mind on, except I need to separate it from the notion of human being, give it some higher ranking capacity, life form that differentiates from me so that I can have confidence in it. Can't make it too human, because my confidence in humans is limited. So I have to give it some largeness and capacity that could be a force that propels me upward and outward. And what I like about the Dharma is that it doesn't so separate me from that now I like holy beings. Because that I can have confidence in, that I would never become, just in my own thinking now. Everyone has to know their own mind, right? For the questions that I'm asking about the nature of reality, these would be the kinds of questions. In my mind, I could never become the Holy Spirit. But the Dharma gave me confidence that I could become a holy being. And that holy is as holy does. And so it gives me a track to run on. It gives me somewhere to go beyond my peculiar languaging, beyond my spiritual, my religious jargon, just coming to where I actually live and what I'm holding inside, trying with all my might to unravel all of this, to understand it, to know how do I apply it to the salve of my suffering, as a salve for my suffering. And so I like this because then at least I can become a bodhisattva. And I come to know that I don't make one giant leap for mankind, but I actually start with an aspiration. And that aspiration creates a causal field where I can begin to actually transform into that. So we naturally make every effort to receive all possible support from within the Dharma realm, and we can at least become an aspiring bodhisattva. This is planting causes to actually acquire the karmic results. Now, what happens if I don't have that track to move on? You see, because this is a matter of one's state of mind. We have to look and see where our mind is. So you have this aspiration, bodhisattva. Sattva is being awakening, and all of these levels of awakening that we have to traverse. So if you really want to become a Buddha in this very lifetime and have made a firm and resolute determination, he says, once you make that aspiration and that determination, don't get confused. Know what it means. You make sure you understand the words coming out of your mouth. It says that you need to know that a Buddha has the 3 bodies and the 4 wisdoms. Sometimes it's designated as 4 bodies and 5 wisdoms. It says it takes, on the average, at least 12 years for one to successfully attain the reality of great perfection through the great perfection Dharma of esoteric Buddhism. It's very possible that one will still be unable to experience great beneficial effects even after 12 years. Esoteric Dharma does have Dharma that one can practice to develop the 3 bodies and the 4 wisdoms. And although the realization that you attain from practicing that Dharma is not as great or supreme as the realization attained by Shakyamuni Buddha, one can nevertheless at least realize the Dhammakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Manakaya states in this very lifetime. So what standard are you holding me against in your evaluation of me? What standard are you holding others against in your evaluation of them? What standard are you holding yourself against? You see why we can get confused and we can get frustrated, we can get weary, we vacillate back and forth because we haven't allowed even the timing, the time that's necessary. You know, when a kid hits their terrible twos, we can't wait till they're 4, you know, but we can't make them 4. And to try and to have an expectation of them does irreparable harm. I see some little children and their parents, you know, they want the best for them. So they got them in something in the morning and something in the afternoon and something in the evening and you know, and they're speaking 4 languages at 4, and they're, you know, just making them, and this is the drive that we bring to the Dharma that has to be abandoned before the Dharma can really begin to take root in our practice. We grab some information and think we know something, get that in our head, and we start just running off with it. But we have to allow the time. It's like a flash flood rain. And rain pelts down for 20 minutes, hard. And then the sun comes out, and all the rain did was washed across the surface. I remember when we got our first place in Hendersonville, and we had a creek. It was like a little trickle creek, you know. I thought it was beautiful little trickle creek because now where I came from, we didn't have any creeks unless you went to Rock Creek Park. That was just one park in the whole city. Everything else was concrete, you know, asphalt jungle. And so just like I could go out my backyard and I could go down the hill and there's this little creek, you know, and it's so beautiful, the water trickling over the rocks. And it was about 8 feet to the top of the ground where there was a bridge to get out to the road, to the main road. And that just looked like forest stuff, you know, to me. That's how that looks. And then I heard that we had been in an 8-year drought. And then I realized that at one time, that little creek that I saw was at the top of the land. That was the top of the water. That was where the creek was. And so it's been decreasing, and now it's this little, not even a brook, you know. And although it's raining every 2 days or every other day, you know, they're saying we're still in a drought. And our Dharma can get like that because we don't know where the fill line is. And so he does this so that we won't become confused. So the meaning of becoming a Buddha through esoteric Dharma is to realize the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya states in this lifetime. Now, if there is no training and direction on what that is, how will you ever reach it? So that's why we need language, prajna, even as incomplete as it is, because it puts us on the path to be able to move towards that goal. As such, then, becoming a Buddha is simply a figure of speech to express accomplishment of the three bodies and the four wisdoms. The three bodies and the four wisdoms. The accomplishment. When you accomplish it, do I have it? When I accomplish it, do you have it? Each one has to accomplish it for himself. So when we judge the capacity of others, we confound ourselves. If we allow ourselves to be judged by others, we confound ourselves. That's why we have to do certain practices to acclimate ourselves to not being easily offended. It's
Venerable?
not, yes.
I don't know what that means, confound.
It means to become confused or to become like I'm sorry, I'm Panyawadi speaking, but
Limited?
I was Panyawadi was actually listening to the Dharma. So I don't know what she just said. Can you tell me the sentence?
Something like, if we judge others, we confound them.
No, if we allow others to judge us.
We confound ourselves, right? We get confused. And confused in the sense of thinking or allowing ourselves to think that we have to measure up to someone else's mind's assessment of who we are and what we are. That's what that means. Is that clear for you? Rob?
He's confounded.
I don't know, for some reason, can you hear me?
Yes, now.
If we judge other people, we become confounded. You're basically saying, I mean, what I kind of hear you saying is we're stuck in ourselves, judging them from that level of mind, and that just keeps us more in that.
It means we confuse ourselves, like what you think of me. And we get caught up in what others think of us, and we also get caught up in what we think of others. And that's not where the work is done. And it's so easy
Got it.
to spend our time in this outward vein of inquiry, is what I'm saying. And we never get to do or have, because he started talking about this around the area of faith and confidence, right? So I'm trying to build what is worthy of your faith and what will build your confidence and what will destroy it. In this little section, and then we're going someplace else. And then he spoke, and now he has a situation, and it just shows you how instant and in the moment a Dharma teaching can be. He says, regarding accomplishment, yesterday, an elderly disciple of mine who will soon be 90 years old raised that subject. I first want to state to you that you should not baselessly guess who he is, because he's not among the disciples who are listening to my impartation of the Dharma at this time. He knew right away that before he could even talk about what he wanted to talk about, our minds were out there running to see, like, I wonder who that was. See, because that's how the ordinary mind goes. It's always looking at this outer person. It's majoring on the mind. His mind just flipped. He said, but wait, but even before I even started to talk, don't even be trying to figure out who it is in here, because he's not even here. So come on back, is what he basically was saying. Because he wanted to talk to them, not about who, but about what. And the mind just went off to who. But here's the what. He wanted to talk about accomplishment, not his disciple. He wanted to, regarding accomplishment. So he said, come on back. He's not here, so don't be looking around trying to think of who it might be, and don't y'all talk about it later. He said to me, this cannot be called an accomplishment, Master. That is like when I'm looking at you and judging your level, or even looking at me and judging, from a mistaken understanding of what it means to become a Buddha in this very life. Before I even figured out what we're talking about, I've already built a whole case around everything, and I'm just traipsing off. He said, this cannot be called accomplishment. I told him that it indeed should be said to be accomplishment. That's because even lighting an incense stick is an accomplishment. I once told my master that even lighting an incense stick is an accomplishment. He thought that what I said was extremely well put, because accomplishment inherently does not have demarcation lines. Accomplishment inherently does not have demarcation lines. If we do not acknowledge that lighting an incense stick is an accomplishment, then there would be no accomplishment except that of the world-honored Shakyamuni Buddha. There would only be his level of accomplishment or no level. But here's these millions of grades. We establish demarcation lines, but it's not really like that. So whatever lines we establish in the sand about who is good and who is bad and who's attained and who is not, all of that is just in our own mind. This will help you a lot if you can get it. If you don't get it, listen to this again, because you're going to need it, because you're traversing this path. If you just came for itchy ears to hear something, it wouldn't matter that much. But if you're walking this path, it's an instruction you need to really ponder and take to heart. He said, there would be no accomplishment except that of Shakyamuni Buddha or the ancient Buddhas of the past. There would be no place for even Buddhas of the present or Buddhas of the future if we identify lines of demarcation. But he's saying, see all progress as accomplishment. All bodhisattvas would have no accomplishment. Why? In such cases, there would not be different approaches involving accepting or rejecting something in the intermediate stages between here and the kind of Buddha awakening of Shakyamuni Buddha. But you got all of these levels unless somebody cuts you off from it. Or unless you cut somebody off from it. We commit offenses we don't even know. Or unless we cut ourselves off from it. And that's even committing an offense against ourselves, right? You see how much faith and confidence it takes? So we have to be careful the thoughts we allow to germinate. Can't let go of it, like a dog biting down on a bone. How it harms us. And how it harms others. Just by not seeing or by setting demarcation lines of judgment around accomplishment. Well, he's given us a get out of jail free card if you can receive it. He's liberally passing it out now. He's telling you the kind of mind that you need to have to keep progressing on this path. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a, I went canoeing one time. I'll never go canoeing again. That is
For sure.
Me neither.
Depends on who's.
sorry, Rob. I mean, they loved it. Everybody who went, but I went about 4 years ago, and
We're on a raft.
Very
Very different.
It was fun.
well, no, I went canoeing. My children came down to visit me,
Yeah, you need to have a good person.
and we were all as a family canoeing. By the time we got downstream to where, the river takes you to the end of where you get off. By the time we got there, everybody had come, had the picnic and gone. The pastor was just waiting for the last canoe to get there, which was me and my family. We weren't even talking to each other by that point, because nobody wanted to follow instructions. Everybody wanted to follow their own mind. Somebody's paddling this way and somebody was paddling that way. We just kept going around in circles, getting tripped up and loop. And that's how it is. That's why somebody's, order is not always a bad thing. Even if I'm not the one in front. But to be able to respect order is huge. To be able to yield, and this is where we get into so much trouble with our thinking and our mind and our tendency. And so we come into a place like this to learn something about order, to rearrange our mental concept of submission as not a dirty thing. Me and Kay and Panyadeepa were out at a monastery in California, and I don't know what that master was doing with their mind, but she was messing my mind up, I mean, I was so angry and upset with her because I could pretty much handle Panyadeepa and Kay. I just have like a little stronger, I won't say a stronger personality because they believe me, they are their own people, but mostly they just kind of just don't feel like dealing with me if it's not something that I don't like, because they don't really care that much. Like, okay, and we keep the peace. So I could get upset easily, and they just seem to be more lackadaisical or accommodating or nice. And it gave me a place to grow in my own, you know, and to deal with my own temperament. But if I had been with people who were like me and dogmatic and so, you know, I probably couldn't have made as much progress. So it's been, although it frustrated me to no end sometime, like, where you want to go, wherever you want to go, what do you want, whatever you want. I'm like, come on, can't somebody make an opinion, have an opinion about something? You know, but actually it was good for me because it didn't give me this. And as imperfect as I was, I could do some Dharma work because the supports I had helped to balance out, you know, some of the defects in my personality. But at least I was willing to go and do the work, you know, and sometimes finally people say, remember, this is what you wanted to do. This is what you said you wanted to do. And he let me do it, you know what I mean? And if he wanted to do some of it, he did. And if he didn't, he didn't. And he didn't feel guilty at all about it. You know, and sometimes I was like, oh, well, I'll win them over, or either I'll argue them over and they'll help me. But a lot of times it was like crickets, you know. And so, but this is how we learn. Also, it's how we support each other, you know. It doesn't all feel good. It doesn't even all certainly look good, but how we come to understand and work with what we got, you know, instead of wishing for something else. Always think the grass is greener on the other side. Even if you've been on the other side and you get over here, when you have to start to deal with what's here, then you still think the grass is greener. You know, how soon we forget. So he says, because we put demarcation lines on accomplishment, you know, we mess up. But inherently, accomplishment is just simply progress. It can be great progress. It can be little progress. It can be of great usefulness or help. It can be of little use or help. But as long as it's not going retro, and even sometimes, because he says we advance and regress daily, I have to know that. And I have to hold some confidence that it's more like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, not 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And so this is his comment or point about the incense stick. It's not just lighting an incense stick, but it was lighting a stick of incense in respect to overcomers, whatever you overcome in your life. Whatever, it's lighting a incense as a sweet smelling savor in respect to the foe destroyers. Some time ago, I said I was gonna do that, well, what's that when you give up something?
That?
Dharma to pass through barriers.
The Dharma to pass through barriers, yeah. And I said, I'm gonna do it. Well, first I said, I'm not gonna do it because I'm not gonna do it in 30 days or whatever set time. Then later I went back and I set a time. And when that time came, I felt sort of motivated, but I wasn't 100%. And I said, well, I'll just give myself 2 more weeks, not, 2 more weeks. And then the 2 weeks passed. And I said, well, I'll just give myself 1 more week. I should have set this up this way when I started. First, I'll review it in a month. Then I'll give myself 2 more weeks. Then I'll give myself 1 more week. But, so I missed the keeping my word or my vow. And what did Buddha Master say? The one who did that was
Well, if they
Worse
take
than
it
a
up,
donkey?
If you take it up and then break it, he was saying, not if you never do it, but if you take it up and
Uh-huh.
and break it, then you're worse than a dog.
Worse than a dog. So I was just thinking, I'm worse than a dog. I'm worse than a dog, you know, and. Sorry, it's okay, get this thing. Worse than a dog. So now I'm thinking, I'm going around with this guilt. I'm worse than a dog, you know, and so I regret that I did it. Regret that I took it up, you know, because I already kind of knew in my heart of hearts that I was trying to do something external to, and I wasn't really feeling it internally. But if I do this external thing, that's going to be the extra oomph that pushes me across the finish line. It's just like, no, because that root sincerity was not there. So I learned something about myself right at that moment. And so I took my flagellation, put it on you, lower than a dog. Not throwing shade on dogs. I'm just talking about, so don't write me about pets. You know, I'm just talking to myself that I said now. I'm gonna do this again, but I'm not gonna do it until I feel that I have suffered enough, you know, with one and not having the means or the way of escape to do it. I'm not gonna pick it up until then. And then one day I woke up and I said, I've learned all I can learn from this. No need to do it. Now what I realize is that I am floating on habit energy. And so you see, something became clear in my own mind. That it wasn't that I didn't actually abandon it in my heart mind, but now I had to contend with habit energy. You don't understand what I mean? Okay. Let's just say, like, before you think, should I say this out loud where people can hear it? You know, you say it. And you've maybe always been like that. So I don't mean any harm about it, you know? It's just like, I shouldn't have said that. But it's my habit energy. I just blurt out, you know? But there I get to a place that I see that sometimes that can be harmful or detrimental, or it can cut me off from being able to give somebody a word in season because they know me as the one who blurts out just whatever. Okay. Then it makes a difference in recognizing that's a habit and I need to focus on recognizing it as a habit, and I'm working at breaking the habit. The habit energy is the problem now, not the mind that would just say anything to anybody, but the habit of blurting out. And that takes a different focus to put that jack back in the box as to the mind that would just say anything to anybody and say, that's just who I am, deal with it. See, two different things, but maybe same action, but two different causes. And now, seeing that, knowing the right cause, one can bring forth the right activity to neutralize.
That's the awareness and
That cause.
mindfulness that
Yes.
you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. It is. So he says, for example, there needs to be different approaches involving accepting and rejecting something in the intermediate stages. So today I'm with it, tomorrow I'm against it, the next day I'm with it. But I'm not just like here in this same place. I'm adding and subtracting, as I am turning my mindfulness into awareness of what is happening right here, right now with me. So it looks perhaps like vacillation, and I could call it vacillation even, but is it really vacillation? It is recognizing the intermediate steps of, starts with an A. Starts with an A.
Accomplishment.
Yes. It's beginning to recognize the intermediate steps of accomplishment and not saying, here is good, here is bad. It says, for example, when you recite sutras for a session, then you have the accomplishment of reciting sutras for the period of time that you recited them. That's how we should think. When you prostrate, and even though you were supposed to do it 10 times, but you did it once, you have the accomplishment of prostrating once. When you do a good deed, you have the causal karma and accomplishment of doing that one good deed. With respect to the subject of accomplishment, the supreme accomplishment of ultimate nirvana with great utilization of complete awareness is that of a Buddha. Thus, the doing of any good deed has its merit. And since there is merit, it is called the accomplishment of merit. If you just applied that one principle, in a Dharma talk, there's 500 principles that are delivered. Pick one. If you just applied that one principle, how different could your mind be? How much could you rise above the trees into the skies where you feel no pain, above the rain? That's what attracted me to the song. That one verse that maybe he hasn't even penetrated yet. But he's not me. And the song that flowed through him was given for anyone and wherever they could pick it up and receive something. For one, it might have been solace in their suffering. But for me, it was the rising above the rain. Now he says, if you want to rise above the rain, you have to take the lines of demarcation away from your concept of accomplishment. It's so huge. It's a game changer if we don't go away forgetful hearers. Sometimes Busita and I, we're constantly talking about how to package this up and present it. We can't figure it out. We can't make courses. We might be heading towards a futile, endeavor in the ways because our minds keep thinking, okay, then we gotta like making smaller packages of insight, and we got a bundle, and we, because there's only one way, we understand academics, we understand curriculum development, but this ain't curriculum development. And so we're constantly in a conundrum about how to package and offer it that doesn't diminish its quality and doesn't take away from its capacity to help us awaken. It's hard.
You read that thing yesterday about, that Buddha master said about, you can't take one excerpt as a standalone teaching. So that leaves you with a conundrum.
Yeah.
Because that's how we learn in a lot of ways with pithy teaching.
So we have to have another way to understand how to utilize teachings and how to break them down. But I think that he is teaching us that. We just have to have a new idea around packaging is not a good word, but presenting and offering. Yeah, and we've been trained in the world's ways, but you can't, they say like you can't put new wine in old wineskins, that it will just cause the binding string to break, because it ferments and it expands and it'll just break the container. This is like trying to put new wine in old wineskins. And many times when I make those associations, one time I wanted to do a Jesus and Buddha as brothers. It's no way. No way I could do it. Because what would naturally come to my mind about similar verses and so forth has nothing to do with reality. That's just something that satisfies our mind, that we're in a place that we want to be around what we think about things, or two things that we hold and embrace, and we're trying to figure out how to put them together in a way that I can have a good heart and a good conscience and feel good about both, because I want both of them, But actually, no way to do that, because everything that came to my mind was totally unconnected. You couldn't even draw the dots. It would have had to be a Dharma talk like this to understand new wine and old wineskins, it just wouldn't be our usual stories. It just was, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But now I understand. So what became an out here failure now has become some in here wisdom. I'm almost finished. Oh, we'll stop. I'm almost finished. I take this one 2 more hours, but I won't. Yes.
What if it's where we're applying our effort? I keep being reminded by Buddha Master to progressively, what is that word? Progressively create relationships within the family and with friends, and it's an erroneous view to leave them. To leave them stranded, and to constantly be feeding them Dharma and correct views.
I'm sorry.
I'm constantly constantly reminded to bring the family on.
So
step by step, bring, never let them go. And so thinking about where, in our efforts, where to the public, but also where to the family.
Oh, okay. So it's good because, the thing we do when we get grown is we run away from home, we leave, and in our leaving, we're done with this and we're on to our new life. but we have karmic ties and things that we have not resolved in our minds. Are like, well, I don't have to resolve it because I don't live there anymore. Or I don't have to resolve it because I'm now grown. They can't tell me what to do. Or we have resentments, or we have views that we've held about them. And we want to go over here and save the world. I just want to save living beings, and he said, you did not take care of, you ran from there. It doesn't mean you move back in. This is the difference in helping hands versus cultivating a mind that processes everything that went on in that relationship so that one can really leave. Otherwise, you don't really leave home. You just bring all that stuff to where you go. And then somebody now is like, the faults you saw in your mother, now, who that person bears the brunt of that. Like, I didn't do it to you, your mother did. I mean, you just because we carry it locked in ourselves. So he says you have to, and you can't like just go back, because Buddha Master said go back and straighten out things with my family. So I'm here now and I'm gonna straighten this out. You can't do it in that way, but he's provoking a way of reflecting and pondering that you can see that life and that relationship and the things that occurred through a new lens, through the lens of the Dharma. And it may look different now than it did then, and it may change. So he's tying up loose ends. Is what you're doing. You're just tying up loose ends. And so maybe things will start to come to your mind, or like being kinder to your mother. It happened for me at the end of my mother's life, when I just saw her like this lump of flesh, abdomen cut open with they put something before the sheet. It was like a gauze thing, because she woke up on the operating table, but she couldn't have any more anesthesia. And so she died in that condition, with an open stomach, because they couldn't sew her back up, or they couldn't give her more anesthesia. Now, and at that point, my heart broke for her. I had so much compassion for her that I wish there had been more time for me to say all the things I meant to say that I never said, to do things that I could have done that I didn't do, and so that's what he's talking about. One, we think, well, because we don't want to have any regrets, but it's not just that. It's about bringing karma to a close.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I can't get to the end now because I was only going 5 more minutes, and that 5 minutes is up. So just let me finish this paragraph and we will stop then. Thus, the doing of any good deed has its merit. Sometimes when we observe our behavior and even hurt our parents, for instance, they'll say, and I said, Mom, why you let them talk to you like that? She says, that's all right. When she gets older, she'll understand. When she has children of her own, she'll understand. Or when something like that. But we keep our views locked in time. He's just saying, step up into the present moment. Look through the lens of the Dharma now. Does anything need rectifying there? If so, take care of that before you run off to save people who don't know how you've really been. It's so I had a lot of work to do. And I feel like I've done it. But now things are coming to my mind about people I forgot I even knew. I'm not going to look for them. It's not for me to go find them now and take care of it, but it's to take care of it inside. And then maybe when I'm at that last space where the body and the mind are not so tightly intertwined, where there's the lifting and the separating of body and mind, and I'm not so strongly tethered to the body, that maybe I make that journey there with a free mind, and make that last visit and give them, because of my accomplishment, notice of my presence with them and my forgiveness or my acceptance or my what? We don't know what we're capable of doing and how we're capable of succoring the suffering of others. We only know what we can do in our ordinary self, But I have a feeling and an idea that there are some extraordinary measures that we will be able to execute in saving others. Ending the cycle of birth and death is what is called accomplishment. We can only say that one has, in this lifetime, realized the accomplishment of ending the cycle of birth and death. Now I have, I have a direction. I'm a little bit clearer, more than just I want to be enlightened, more than I just want to save all beings, more than ending the cycle of birth and death. It's becoming narrower and more refined. Even right now, I don't think so much about I'm alive and dying. I'm thinking I am dying and birth is coming. That's an in-between state. That's not a full state of neither birth nor dying, but it ain't living and preparing to die. I'm no longer preparing to die. But the body will drop off. But I don't have in my mind at all. But it's just our languaging. So I hope this has been helpful. If somebody could close us out. Why now do I rise above the trees into the skies, where I feel no pain above the rain?
Thank you, Panawati.
You're welcome.
May the merit, may the
Okay.
merit of our practice and this beautiful teaching be shared equally amongst all beings, so that we may be open and truly vulnerable without ego to the wisdom and compassion that lies within all of us, so that we too may be truly in tune with our Buddha nature.